Amazing. Thank you so much, Morris and Latasha. So for our final conversation of the day, we are going to build on that. That was so inspiring, so helpful, and we're building on that to look at the future and what does it take to continue to talk about upending politics as usual. So I'm so proud to be welcoming special guest, Maine U.S. Senate candidate Graham Platner. Yay! And my dear friend and co-founder and co-conspirator, Tory Gavito, president of Way to Win. Woo! Tory is not only president of Way to Win, she's the heart of this work. She's been steering the vision and strategy of this network of donors and strategists just in a few short years, raised all that money we talked about earlier, $255 million, and building toward the kind of democracy we all want to live in. And of course, Graham Platner is bringing this fresh, courageous vision to Maine. A Marine and Army veteran, oyster farmer, chair of the Sullivan Planning Board. He's running to defeat Susan Collins. Let's just be clear about that. Return that Senate seat to working Mainers. And this campaign is really inspiring us all how to be in lived experience, how to do real organizing, and build a revitalized Democratic Party. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, this is a real pleasure to be sitting on the stage with you.
And thank you so much
Real
for.
honor.
Jesus.
Oh yeah, these are real money.
I'm used to yelling into these things.
So to prepare for this interview, I did a deep dive. I looked at a bunch of your socials. I've gone in. I watched the whole town hall, the reigning one, where you had nothing but the standing room. So I have learned a lot about you, including that Hemingway, maybe reading a little too much Hemingway, sent you towards the war.
Yes. Yeah.
I read For Whom the Bell Tolls, and I was like, give me some vino tinto. But you went towards the fight.
I read For Whom the Bell Tolls and wanted to be Robert Jordan. So it's not exactly where I was supposed to go with that, I think. But when look, honestly, this is one of these things where we as a society really do not always have answers for young people wanting to be part of something bigger, except for things like military service. And partially, I think that's why we need to restructure our society in a way where we can give people those kinds of things. And you don't just have to go towards the sound of the guns. You can also go maybe build something in your community. But
yeah, and it seems like you've been doing that. I mean, one of the things that I've taken away from reading and learning more about you is there are two things that are very true about you. You are truly in love with the place that you are from. That comes across quite clear. You love Maine. As a 7th generation Texan, I can tell you I love the place I'm from, so I get that. And you truly are an oyster farmer. And there's something that you said in that town hall. You said, am I really about to put aside our quiet life for all this? What made you jump in the arena?
My wife and I have been able to build a really spectacular life in my hometown. And I'm very lucky that I'm from the place that I'm from, that I grew up there, that I got to come back there after my time overseas, after my time living in DC. I went to GW for a bit. I didn't finish, but I did go there. But I got to go back to the place that I'm from, and I've been able to build this, frankly, really spectacular life. I've been able to do that because I'm a disabled veteran. I get free health care. I'm able to do that because the VA gives me support monthly to keep a roof over my head. I would not be able to do it without those things. I also have spent the past few years watching this place that I love, these people that I love, in many ways just get bled dry. And Maine's got a real long history of people living hard scrabble lives. We're very proud of the fact that we work like 3 or 4 jobs, seasonal jobs, clam digging, lobstering, blueberry raking, making reeds in the wintertime. That's stuff that we're really proud of, but like that used to be enough. That amount of work used to be enough. I mean, I know guys that were clammers, I don't know, you literally dig clams out of the mud, who sent their kids to college on that. I mean, that is over. You cannot do that now. Hard work is not enough. And it's been really difficult for my wife and I to feel, frankly, very proud and happy in the small little life that we've been able to build, knowing that everybody around us is, frankly, suffering, that good friends of ours cannot buy homes. People do not have health care. Even us, we've been trying to start a family. We've had some pretty brutal conversations about the fact that Eastern Maine is down to 2 birthing units, and like the hospital I was born in, that doesn't exist anymore. That makes us really wonder, like, what are we gonna do if the only birthing unit's an hour plus away, because we live in rural Maine? That was not a concern people had 30 years ago. So the reason I got into this thing is that I just have a pretty foundational belief that working people, working communities, the only way that we're ever going to get to the future in which we are taking care of everyone, we need to be building power through organization at the community level. I believe that deeply. It's part of my lived experience. My background's in community organizing. I've seen it work. I've seen material wins when communities come together and organize. And for me, this race really is a mechanism to build that out, but also to show people that they actually have power. And we bring them in through the electoral system, we bring them in through an electoral campaign, but we also get them back out the door again as activists, as organizers, connected to their community in a much deeper, better way. And I firmly believe that that's the only way forward. It's the only way to rebuild the Democratic Party back into a party of working people. It's the only way to show working communities that politics is not merely there to represent the rich and the powerful. Politics can be there to represent working. In fact, it has to be. It's one of the only legitimate weapons that we as working people have. And I firmly believe that this race next year in Maine against Susan Collins, the ground is fertile to build that kind of movement. And we have a legitimate opportunity not just to beat Susan Collins, but also to essentially build out a model that we can show to the rest of the Democratic Party and the rest of the United States that there is a way that you can build power locally and then transfer that into structural power.
And let's put a fine point on that too, because I've been told my whole life as a Texas operative that there's like certain ways to approach rural voters. And and you are putting together a model. I mean, Maine, tell me about the state of play in terms of how you create a coalition, a winning coalition in Maine.
Yeah, so Maine, we have about 1.4 million people. 500,000 to 600,000 of those are generally active voters. It's not a lot of people, as those in this room might know. In other races, those are tiny. That's a district.
It's an Austin City Council race.
Yes, exactly. 30% of the electorate is Democrat, 30% is Republican, 30% plus is independent and unenrolled. And the way that we approach this, I mean, this is gonna sound a little strange. I do not look at this like it's a strategy. I've been asked a lot recently, like, how do you do your messaging? Last week, I had a journalist literally call me and be like, how is your message? Your messaging is so authentic and genuine. What's your process?
We need to put a fragrance together. The authentic spray for him and her.
Well, and but like in many ways, I think that is as laughable a question, at least to me, as this idea of like, how am I supposed to talk to rural voters? Like, I live in a town of 1,000 people that I'm from. I don't have to go figure out how to talk to rural voters. I am a fucking rural voter. And I think that, one, we need to be finding candidates and supporting candidates that come from the real world. That is because, again, these are not people who have to come up with ways to talk to people. They'll just be doing it already. Two, we need to really focus, and I think here in Maine, this is where it's going to really come into play. We need to focus on the fact that working people have the same material needs, regardless of who they voted for. When the hospital closes because of Medicaid and Medicare cuts, it does not matter if you voted for Donald Trump. It does not matter if you're a self-described progressive. It doesn't matter. The hospital is closing. If you cannot afford to buy a house because private equity rolled in and bought up a bunch of single-family housing and drove prices up, it doesn't matter who you voted for. These are issues that working people in Maine give a shit about. And I know it because I've been going around the state talking to them, and this is what people care about.
I've heard you say it's about the big things.
It's about the big things.
Like, who cares about, what Trump is inventing today or tomorrow that's dividing us? It's about the big things.
I don't want to sound like, I know today was a rough one. So I know we had a not great meeting this morning around military personnel. I know that some comments were, look, this stuff is, but there is an element for me where I'm like, well, what did we expect? We all know where this is going. We all know what Donald Trump is. We all know that the Republican Party has turned into his party. We know all of this stuff. That is why we really need to be thinking not about how we react to that stuff on a day-to-day basis. We need to be thinking about strategically, what are we doing to really meet the needs of working people? And to be able to talk to them about that, because that is the only way we're going to build power in order to fight back against this nonsense. And the way that we build a coalition in Maine, it's already happening, by the way, is that we are just relentless about economic issues. We are relentless about healthcare. We are relentless about housing. We are relentless about the general affordability crisis. These are the things that everybody is dealing with on a daily basis. And for the record, this does not mean we sell people out. This does not mean that we have to go down some road of backing off of progressive wins. We have made a lot of progress in this country. We shouldn't be going back on it. You don't have to do that. You can plant your flag, you can say that I believe in equality for all, and then you point out that the fucking hospital is closing. And that's what you talk about. And I'll be honest, like, I have had these conversations for years with friends of mine who are Trump voters. They know my stance on this stuff. That is not what we talk about. We covered that years ago. We mostly talk about tariffs driving up prices. We talk about the hospitals closing, and we talk about the fact that nobody under 40 can afford a home. That's what we talk about. And that is the strategy.
And literally, I saw in your town hall, you asked how many people here are under 45. A lot of people raised their hands.
Yeah.
And then you asked how many of you can afford homes. Nobody I saw raising hand. And this was a room at least 3 times the size of the crowd in this room. These are the big things.
Look, I know that the housing crisis is everywhere. It's not just in Maine. I'm aware of that. But I mostly care about it in Maine. But it is, those are the issues that we need to be focused on. And if we simply stick to them, and we also, and this is very important, I think Morris may have mentioned this too, but something that has, I think, happened in New York that a lot of people have seen. You need to have policies. You cannot say you're going to make things better because you're a Democrat and Democrats make things better. That's not how it works. You need to have clear, cogent, easy to understand policies that address people's material needs. That's what you need. Get 3 of them, stick to them, don't talk about anything else. And when you get asked about other things, again, you don't have to sell anybody out. You just say, I believe what I believe, and let's get back to talking about the fact that nobody can afford a home. Stick to that stuff. I don't want to say that it's a winning model everywhere, but I do think in Maine, it is absolutely, the reason that we have built the energy we have built is because this works. And it's not just working with Democrats, it's not just working with progressives, it's working with a ton of Trump voters because they also think that they're getting screwed by the system. They think that rich people are robbing them. They think that the political class exists to represent elites and corporate interests. It's why they voted for Trump, which seems a little silly, but it isn't in some ways. They just see the world for what it is, and at least he told them that that was true. They forgave a lot after that. We need to go back to being the kind of party that can also tell people the truth.
Let's talk about the party for a second. We have a phrase in Spanish that's sin pelos en la lengua. You don't have fur on your tongue. You say what you mean. And what I've noticed on the campaign trail is that you're very clear that you're running as a Democrat. You're also very clear about the problems within the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
So why run from inside the House? Why didn't you run from outside?
Because I'm a Democrat. I'm a Democrat because I still have hope that the traditions that I believed that the Democratic Party is drawn from, which are the traditions of the labor movement, the civil rights movement, the suffragette movement, those are legacies. Those are the legacies of the party that I found a home in years ago and have sadly watched walk away from that stuff. But I don't think it's too late. And I'm a firm believer that we can rebuild the party, but we have to do it from the ground up. I mean, this is the hard part. I tell this to people back in Maine, nobody is coming down to save us. There's nobody from on high with a bunch of power and money is gonna come down and fix this. We need to fix it ourselves, and that's gonna start on the ground floor.
Okay, so I'm serious that I did a deep dive. I saw a constituent of yours named Rowan, or a future constituent of yours named Rowan. He's a young kid. Drew this beautiful picture of a dragon, and he had this to say.
She.
Wait.
Rowan is a she.
Oh, she. Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you. This is what the child had to say. What you say is fire. What you think are your wings, and how you act is your tail. And it occurred to me when I saw this beautiful poetry, not just that Hemingway and Stephen King need to move aside, but that you really are carrying the future of Maine with you. A lot of people here are carrying the future of their states with them, and the future of the party and the future of the station. You've got the last word, fire breather. What do you want to tell us?
One, I just want to say that there is absolutely hope. We do not have to feel apathetic. We do not have to feel disillusioned. Behind all of the anger that's out there right now, behind all of the resentment, all of the polarization, all of it is coming from a place of primarily working people feeling like they live in a system that is built to screw them. And we need only to connect with that in a deep way, but we need to do it in a real way. We have to get past the idea that we're going to come up with magic words to trick people into thinking we care about them if we don't care about them. In the end, we need to rebuild the Democratic Party into a party that is going to fight for big structural policies. We need to, frankly, look, I'm from Maine. One of my heroes is Francis Perkins. We need to return to the Democratic Party of the New Deal. The crises that we face, the poly crisis that we live in, is going to require massive structural fixes. We are not going to get them playing around in the margins. We need to be thinking about a brighter future that we build using all of the wealth and all of the resources that our great nation has created, but we have allowed to accrue in one very small place. That can no longer go on. But that is why people are angry. They're angry about that. So I'm a firm believer that if we merely return to the legacies that built our party, the legacies that frankly pulled me into being a Democrat in the first place, we return to those things and we fight for the material needs of working Americans, we will find success there. We will find victory there. And because I believe that, I firmly believe that the future, as dark as it looks right now, is actually quite hopeful. So.
Thank you.